The budget statement for the fiscal year 2020-2021 was made at a time when the country is facing extreme economic challenges due to the current global pandemic and the need to balance between generation and revenue, as well as stimulating the economy to safeguard businesses for a smooth path towards economic recovery is necessary. In a bid to increase the tax revenues, the Kenyan government announced some tax-related changes. Rodney Omukhulu, Assistant Investment Analyst at Cytonn, joined us earlier for more on that.
With regards to the tax reforms currently in the country, with regards to the budget specifically, they're trying to sort of try and plug the deficit that we've seen in terms of revenue collection, where for certain import items, they've increased taxes and are working towards maintaining the rates for some, specifically in terms of customs, where they want to maintain those in the manufacturing sector in an effort to sort of help local companies also. So in terms of reforms, there are quite a number here and there where we see the introduction of like a digital tax for digital transactions, which will be now 1.5, and a few changes in the space just to try and widen the space.
Yeah. We've seen the Treasury is also seeking to delay the implementation of a 14% VAT on cooking gas to next year. You know, why are they considering this, considering that they want to actually implement the financial bill this year?
So some of the measures you're seeing currently in the market is just an effort to try and make it or cushion the economy. So in a move such as that, in terms of the tax for the gas, I'd say, is just to try and make it convenient for the local mwananchi in terms of the charges, considering the current situation in the market.
Yeah, we saw President Uhuru Kenyatta made a commitment to the UN that Kenya will attain the 10% tree cover by 2020. And in order to achieve this, he proposed that the alternative energy sources like the LPGs would be used more, you know. But now when you're looking today, we're seeing that they've removed the LPGs from tax-exempt goods. You know, isn't this moving one step behind, considering that this is President Uhuru's Kenyatta's promise that they'll be promoting this for the wananchis to be using more often?
True, it might be seen as a step back, but ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, you have to consider also other market factors, considering the current situation we're having. So ultimately, a move like that, as odd as it might seem, might be needed in one way or another, just to try and sort of maintain this current state of the economy. So in terms of the government, I feel like they're looking for also other avenues to try and encourage the green movement, where they're just pushing for a more sustainable way of running the economy ultimately.
Yeah, Rodney, talk to us about the 1.5 digital service tax on the value of digital transactions, and how can the government really develop an e-commerce with proper tax regulations in this day and age?
So the introduction of this tax is ultimately meant to just widen the tax base, and having seen the increased activity in this space where we have M-Pesa and a few other significant providers who are joining the market, we see a very high number of transactions being done in the digital space. So the government has taken this as an opportunity to widen the tax base, and also this will be a way of just tracking the way this industry is growing ultimately for the government.
With the new VAT tax regulations that are being considered to be implemented this year, would you say that there are proper guidelines on how they will be handled and how they will be put into action?
There are certain regulations already put in place to try and see how these policies will be translated into the economy. And most of them work, though ultimately with the way the current situation in the market is, you're seeing all these struggling businesses. I'm not quite sure how well these policies will perform looking down the year, but we are optimistic in terms of how the authority will carry itself in terms of implementing these policies.
We see COVID-19 has hit the economy, not only Kenya's, but the global economy. And they are putting forward measures in order to mitigate and help boost their recovery. But with the move that the country is currently putting in place, would you say that there is balance between generation of revenue and stimulating the economy? You know, because some of these measures are seen as like seen as a challenge themselves to the SMEs in the country, to the business people who are currently operating in Kenya?
It's true that to be able to make these policies effective, it will take a lot. And definitely that's, I think, something we're seeing in the market, where as much as the government is trying to spur the economy, the effect isn't quite trickling to the SMEs, which in this case, they're struggling because of cash flow issues. So ultimately, I think the push should be just to try and see how these SMEs can be assisted in terms of cash flow management. And ultimately, that will enable these businesses to come back up and just continue running, to be able to support the economy through jobs and the various ways that these effects translate.
How attractive are the new VAT reforms to, let's say, investors, or will this pose a challenge in itself?
So, ultimately, what I can say is always where some investors benefit in terms of like some of the inputs are lower because of the decreased VAT, while some ultimately lose out on the VAT. But for businesses, it shouldn't be quite a significant change, because ultimately the change in terms of the rate is towards government revenue collection.